Let's talk about classifying quadrilaterals. So quadrilaterals go by a whole bunch of different names. You have parallelograms, you have rhombuses, rectangles, squares, trapezoids, kites. What is the definition of each of these? How do I classify a quadrilateral into one of these categories? So a quadrilateral is any shape that has four sides. They could have the sides of any size, it could have angles of any size, as long as it has four distinct sides, no more, no less, and four vertices, four angles, it is a quadrilateral. So the first quadrilateral we'll talk about today are parallelograms. What makes something a parallelogram is that it must have two opposite parallel sides, or two pairs of opposite parallel sides. So this side needs to be parallel to its opposite, and this side needs to be parallel to its opposite. That's what makes it a parallelogram. If it has only one set of parallel sides or no sets of parallel sides, it is not a parallelogram. In the same vein, the next one is a rhombus. A rhombus is like a parallelogram with an extra rule. A rhombus has four sets of parallel sides two sets of parallel sides, and it also must have all four sides be the same size. So if it is a parallelogram and all four sides are the same length, then it is a rhombus. Another thing to note about this means that all rhombuses are parallelograms, but not all parallelograms are rhombuses. In the same vein of parallelograms and rhombuses, we have rectangles and squares. For something to be a rectangle, it has to follow a couple of rules. First, it must be a parallelogram. This means we need to have two pairs of opposite parallel sides, and it has to have four right angles. So what makes something a rectangle is it is a parallelogram and it has four right angles. That is what makes something a rectangle. So what makes something a square then? Well, a square is a rectangle where all four sides are equal. Just like a rhombus is a parallelogram where all four sides are equal, a square is a rectangle where all four sides are equal. That means there's a lot of rules something needs to follow before it's a square. 1, it needs to be a parallelogram. 2, it needs to be a rectangle. And 3, it needs to have all four sides the same. This also means a couple of things. All squares are also rhombuses because they follow the rules of a rhombus, where you have two sets of opposite parallel sides and all four sides are equal. This also means all squares are also parallelograms because it follows the basic rules of a parallelogram, which is that it needs two sets of opposite parallel sides. And all squares are rectangles because it follows the rules of it being a parallelogram and it has four right angles. So a square falls into the quadrilateral category because it has four sides. It falls into the parallelogram category, falls into the rhombus category, and falls into the rectangle category. Next, let's talk about our trapezoids. So parallelograms need two pairs of opposite parallel sides. If you only have one pair of opposite parallel sides, that makes a trapezoid. So a trapezoid is identified as having exactly one pair of opposite parallel sides. And there's a couple of different kinds of trapezoids. This one right here where this side and this side are of equal length, this would be called an isosceles trapezoid. And then if you have something like this, where you have the set of parallel sides here, but none of the sides are equal, this would be a scalene trapezoid, where none of the sides are equal to each other. So trapezoid is neat because it is its own specific category. There isn't really another shape in the quadrilateral category that falls into the trapezoid category. It is its own unique thing. So anytime you have a shape with two opposite parallel sides, so only one pair of opposite parallel sides, it is a trapezoid. Finally, let's talk about kites. Kites are unique. They need a specific rule to be followed. And it's only one rule. You need to have two pairs of congruent adjacent sides. So let's break down what that means. Congruent means that they are the same length, and adjacent means that they are next to each other or connected. In this case, this would be our first set or our first pair of congruent adjacent sides. They are congruent because they are the same length, and they are adjacent because they are next to each other. This would be our second set of adjacent congruent sides. They are adjacent because they're next to each other. They're congruent because they're the same size. That would make this shape a kite. Now, because that is the only rule that makes something a kite, this means our buddy the square, this is a terrible drawing of a square, but forgive me. Our buddy the square also falls into the kite category. And so does our buddy the rhombus, because it has two pairs of congruent adjacent sides, so it falls into the kite category. And that's all the major categorizations for quadrilaterals. If you found this video to be helpful, consider liking and subscribing. If you have a topic you would like for me to cover in the future, leave it down in the comments below. As always, have a fantastic day.